hold it. You'll hold it in your left hand, and you'll be right next to him. Right? No, on this side. On this side. Right?
Do I get to
So that
take
you
off
can
my
both.
mask for this?
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Do I get to take off my mask for this?
If you could please keep it on.
All right, folks, I think we're about ready to get started. Okay, I call this meeting to order, regular meeting of the Board of Education, which was duly noticed on September 24th, 2021, through posting and notification of the press in accordance with Wisconsin 19.84. And for Commissioner Millard, we have the Pledge of Allegiance introductions.
Thank you, President Myers. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Stephanie Filter, the principal of Madison Elementary. A few interesting things about Stephanie is she attended Madison Elementary, Franklin Junior High School, and graduated from Parker High School in 1989. Her career with the Janesville School District began in the summer of 1989 when she was hired as a summer custodian slash maintenance helper. In the school year 1993 to 94, she did her master's internship with Parker's School Within a School and Marshall's All Pro. Stephanie was hired in the spring of 1994 as a special education paraprofessional as she finished her master's degree in social work. In 1995, Stephanie was hired by the school district as the student services specialist and has worked in the district since in many different buildings and roles as a social worker until 2014 when she was hired as Madison's elementary principal. Stephanie, who do you have with you this evening for the
I have
pledge?
two really great students with me. So this is Derek Fields and this is Nora Ladd. And they're both third graders at Madison School. And Derek said his best subject is math and Nora said hers is reading. So they're nice and well-rounded. The reason I picked them is because they're great kids. They're the kind of kids that you love to see in the hallway every day. But their parents are also very actively involved in Madison School. They volunteer, they're on our PTA. So it's kind of a whole family, and we appreciate that. So, he's ready to go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much. Awesome. Okay, so we have one minor adjustment to the agenda, and then I will need a motion to approve. On your agenda, 1.5 are citizen comments, and 1.6 is the student presenters to the board. And so we're going to bump 1.6 up to in front of 1.5, just so that our student presenter can deliver and go home. Okay? So do I have a motion to approve that agenda? Commissioner Paul and Commissioner Hannawell on the second. Okay, and I believe we're doing a roll call vote in all occasions tonight. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay. Hannawall.
Yes.
Hayworth.
Yes.
Herda. Millard. Murray. Paul. Ardrey.
Yes.
Dommershausen. Myers.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Passes 9-0, and just for your information, Commissioner Ardrey is with us by phone. Okay, thank you very much. Safety message, Commissioner Hayworth.
Just a quick one. I did this one at PPC, but I think it's a good one for everybody. Just a reminder to check your tires. Make sure you are prepared with your flat, your spare, or whatever, run flat, the spray or your spare tire. Going into the season and making sure that that's all checked for the winter.
Thank you very much. Okay, student presenters to the board. We have Jillian Quaddy from Tagos. And then after that, Natalie Spicer from RUHS.
Go right up to this. Thank you. Sorry. It's giving feedback.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Jillian. I was kind of asked on last notice because of someone else was not feeling well, so bear with me. Tagos has changed a lot. I joined last year in the beginning of the school year, and then also we moved to a whole different location, which was weird. Much smaller environment, which isn't all too bad, but it does have some difficulties because we went from open space to closed space. I like Tagos because I get to have freedom of what I choose to learn, and I get to have more teacher attention where if I need help with something, I'm able to get that help pretty fast instead of have to wait because the teacher is busy with so many other students. I feel like the smaller amount of students in a school setting is good because then you can connect with them more, teachers and students, and also it's like a smaller community where you have time to meet with everybody. Anybody have any questions?
I do. What are you working on? What are you interested in studying? Because it's project based, right?
Yes.
Yes. Tell me about that.
I have interest in like art things, like photography, justice things. I did a project on criminal justice, human trafficking, different topics that usually have to do with justice or art.
That sounds awesome. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, nice job. Thank you. And for pinch hitting too. Well done. Thank you. Good. Well done. Okay. And next, I'm hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Is it Natalie? Natalie?
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Natalie Spicer, and I'm a junior at Rock University High School. Currently, we have 75 students enrolled. Rock University's goal as a middle college is to prepare and allow students to attend college while they're still in high school for a selected path. At the moment, 30 juniors and seniors are taking approximately 115 classes at Black Hawk Technical College. I'm currently taking Intro to Business and Management as it's a prerequisite for most other classes in the business management program, which is what I'm aiming for. In addition, I'm taking AP Seminar, which is a research-based course where we are learning how to approach a topic through various lenses and present solutions to a problem based on our independent and group research. I'm also currently taking TC Speech, AP Psychology, and TC English Composition, which all count for credits towards my business management program. By the end of this year, I will have 8 out of the 21 classes I need to complete my program. One reason I enjoy attending Rock University is because of the opportunities it provides for the students. Not only are we able to earn an associate's degree, but we are also able to grow as individuals. This will be my 3rd year taking part in the GSA Club at Rock University, and recently I've been able to take on a leadership role within the club. During my 1st year, I spoke on a student panel about LGBTQIA+ issues within schools, and this year I plan to launch my pronoun project to the students and staff at Rock University. Along with being given leadership and public speaking skills, I also enjoy this school because of the variety of perspectives it allows me to hear out. My classmates' ideas introduce me to perspectives that I wouldn't have been able to consider by myself, and it really allows us to learn from each other. I would not have been able to grow as a student without the support of my classmates and teachers. Ms. Jensen has always pushed me to do better and work harder. Mr. Lilly is always friendly and considerate to his students. Ms. Kerr takes time out of her busy day to help me when I need support. And Ms. Viorello makes sure all her students know that it's okay to ask for help and that they're engaged in the learning environment. I also appreciate and want to thank all of you as board members for allowing my school to grow. And I'm excited to be one of the first graduates from RUHS that started as a freshman. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say I'm sorry I butchered your name.
Okay.
And do you have a question?
Who's this person over here?
That is Ms. Kerr, my Dean of Students.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. It sounds like a great program, and it sounds like you're really rocking it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice job. Thank you very much. Good job. Rocking it. Yep. Yeah, I did that. Did you see how I did that? All right. Okay. I don't know how many more good ones I have left in me here tonight, so we'll just what I'm saying is don't expect much. Okay. So anyway, okay, so we are going to move on to citizen comments. I do have something to read before we begin. I will tell you that we did not have any online submissions at this point or up for this meeting. We do have a few people in person. Let me go ahead and read this statement. Welcome to all of those who have signed up to speak to the board tonight. We value your input and interest in our school community. Accordingly, through School Board Policy PO 0167.3, titled Public Comment at School Board Meetings, the board allows citizens an opportunity to express interest and concerns for the schools during the citizen comments portion of school board meetings. We would also like to remind you that school board meetings are for the purpose of carrying on the business of the district. They are not public meetings, but official business meetings held in public. To ensure that board meetings are conducted in an orderly and productive manner, all public comments, no matter the topic, are subject to the following regulations. Time limit. Speakers will be given 1 3-minute opportunity to address the board. This time limit will be enforced. If a speaker continues past the expiration time, the school board president or district official will ask the speaker to stop and leave the podium. Per Board Policy PO 0167.3, adopted on March 9th, 2021, the portion of the meeting during which the participation of the public is invited to speak shall be limited to 30 minutes unless extended by the presiding officer. Number 2, conduct. Speakers must conduct themselves with respect and civility toward others. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. No person may address or question board members individually. Prohibited conduct includes conduct which is disruptive to the meeting, interferes with the ability of others to observe the meeting or speak to the board, or interferes with the ability of the board to conduct business. This includes conduct which is abusive, harassing, or threatening, and conduct which includes the use of vulgarities or profanities. If a speaker violates this rule, we may prohibit the speaker from further comment at the meeting. Number 3, topics for discussion. Speakers may not comment on confidential personnel disputes, share grievances involving school personnel or school employees that do not implicate issues of public concern, or share individual student disciplinary matters, as there are other channels available that provide for consideration and disposition of such matters. Number 4, board response. Pursuant to Wisconsin's open meetings law, board members are prohibited from responding to public comments unless the topic was identified on the public posting of the board agenda. And number 5, recess and adjournment. In the event an individual's conduct raises a disruption to the board meeting and the board cannot continue its business, the gavel may be used to declare a recess or to adjourn the meeting. In addition, if such conduct constitutes a threat to the health or safety of another individual or individuals at the meeting, law enforcement may be contacted to restore order and safety. So we've had lots of public comment in the last few months, and honestly, everybody that has spoken with us and has shared their concerns with us has been exemplary as far as their conduct is concerned. And honestly, I hear from people all the time as to how our meetings look so good and how our public conducts themselves so well. And so I really appreciate that. I want to just put that out there first, how much I appreciate everybody's willingness to come speak to us, and also their adherence to our rules. First on my list, I have 5. First on my list, and I hope I say this right, is Aubriella Burgos. Hi, Aubriella. Hi. Aubriella, when you introduce yourself, would you include your address, please?
I'm Aubrey Burgos, and my address is 533 Prairie Avenue.
Just one moment, please. Timer? I want to make sure we have that ready. Okay, great. Okay, continue.
To start out, I believe that we should be able to express ourselves with our own style of clothing by not having a dress code. At such a young age, kindergarten to be exact, I had worn a black tank top and silver rhinestones to school and was called out of class to change. I was around 5 or 6, and of course I didn't think anything of it because I was still a child. In 5th grade elementary school, I had worn a pink shirt that was showing my midriff, but I did have a flannel to cover it up. But I still got dress code in front of my whole classroom in a line before a gym. In 7th grade, I wore a V-neck spandex tank top and a black zip-up hoodie. As I was walking into school, a teacher told me to zip up my sweatshirt, and I asked why. She said it was too revealing. I looked at my shirt, and I asked how. She told me that my chest area was too revealing. It was just a normal spandex tank top. Again this year, 8th grade, I wore a neon orange shirt that was spaghetti strap, and again, I was dress coded as usual. Now that I am a teenager, I have come to realize that us young women should not be taught to cover up at such a young age when we feel we want to express ourselves and wear the clothing we want and prefer. For women and girls, the midriff area and shoulders should not be once again sexualized nor seen as a sexual organ/body part when everyone has it. Why is it sexualized towards only women and not men? If you told your daughter to cover up, would you also tell your son the same thing if he was wearing similar clothing? I was told it was a distraction towards others and even teachers. I think that women's shoulders and midriffs should not be a distraction to teachers or anyone at all. I was also told that when I start a job, there will always be a dress code policy. By the time I have a job, I'll have to be professional, but in school, we are still kids and teenagers and should be able to express ourselves with clothing while we still have the time to be a kid. Our whole lives, we have been told to cover up, don't be a distraction, or you're preventing other kids from learning. And honestly, I am starting to get tired of it. I'm not an object, I'm a person, a human, and we all are. So why is there a dress code policy? I think if our young bodies provoke 20 to 60-year-old teachers, then maybe they aren't best for the school environment. And if our young female bodies provoke men or boys at school, why aren't we teaching them to respect us and keep their thoughts to themselves? Why aren't we teaching them to respect the women who give life and people who make our future generations? Overall, young women should be able to wear the clothing that they're most comfortable in and prefer. Everyone has different styles and prefer to wear different clothing. And if teachers still find us provoking, I think they should not be a teacher. Teachers are supposed to protect us and not sexualize us and not see us in any sexual way, no matter what. The dress code policy has taught me that they see women as an object, provocative, and a distraction by banning cleavage, skin, and thighs. The dress code has made some young females believe that showing skin is so-called skimpy. But if a man was to show the same amount of skin as a woman, what would you say? I have evidence. The concern is that students who may already be struggling academically fall farther behind in class when they miss too much time serving suspensions, changing clothes, or waiting while administrators measure their skirts. In one of the latest episodes, a viral video initially meant to instruct students on the dress code policy at Marcus High School in Flower Mound, Texas, drew intense criticism last month for deciding only girls as rule violators. St. Louis Oakville High School's principal is captured on video apologizing to parents after telling female students they should not show off their bodies in fear of distracting male classmates.
I'm sorry, but your 3 minutes is up, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate you coming to talk to us and how well you did and your presentation, your poise, and your evidence. If you have, evidence that you want to leave with Ms. Jensen for us to look at, then, please do. Okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Next I have Carla Herman.
First of all, I don't know if there is a reporter in here. I'm talking about a minor child, so you may not put this in the paper. Last time I was in the paper, unknown. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Herman. Would you please tell us your address?
4344 Edgeview Court, Janesville.
Thank you very much.
Didn't even know I was going to speak tonight. I'm speaking on mass choice and depression in our kids. First of all, one thing with my daughter. I came in before you last year in January because you were thinking about extending no school. If I had known how depressed she truly was and how close she was to doing what she was thinking of doing it would have been this school board's fault. And she is not alone. These kids need to see other kids and their faces. They need to see their faces. It should be a choice. You sat and said something about not being an immunologist, then don't be one. 3 of you are up for re-election. You took an inventory of parents and what they thought about masks and your teachers just to get a guideline of what people were thinking. Overwhelmingly, half of your teachers said no to masks or mask choice. And I know for a fact, it was closer to 75% parents said mask choice. Why do you give a survey if you do not take our input? We pay your salaries. Excuse me. It is ridiculous what you are calling for our children. We were made to look at each other's faces. We were made to look at our smiles. It is depression, it's suicide, it's isolation. All these children are going through this. And yet, there's not one study that says masks stop everything. If they worked so well, we wouldn't have had the spread in the first place. Okay? These masks, these blue ones, 10% effective. Okay? Doctors wear them in surgery to keep out bodily fluid splashes. I'm a retired firefighter paramedic. Okay? Talk to a couple doctors. They're not meant to keep the virus out or keep viruses out of them. It's for large bodily splashes into their face. Okay? Or if they sneeze, they keep the big masses out. I didn't even know that we, the parents, existed until last week. We're not going anywhere. You guys need to start listening to us parents. Across the United States, we are done being bullied around and having our children bullied. And that's what you're doing. You're bullying our children into wearing masks. You talk about not bullying people, it's control. It is all about control. I know they've sent you tons of information about how damaging masks are, not just to physical being. She caught a cold last week from another girl who had a mask on. And because she had to wear a mask, her immune system can't work properly to get in fresh air. She was sicker than a dog for 5 days. I had to take her to her doctor to get a COVID test to come back to school. It's ridiculous. Let our kids be kids. Let their immune systems work the way they were made to work. It is what it is. Stop the control issue. Stop spreading fear. And start letting our kids be kids. That's what I got to say.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next, I have Heather Miller. Hi, Ms. Miller. Welcome.
Good evening, thank you.
Would you give us your address, please?
Heather Miller, 2023 Joliet Street, Janesville.
Thank you.
We've heard how minimal the side effects of COVID-19 transmission have been on students in the Janesville School District through our superintendent's memo, referencing 3,000 students approximately present within our summer school program through this past August 27th. 0 cases of transmission while affording parents the right to choose whether or not to mask their children. 0. Apparently, this information was not yet made available to most of the board members because less than a week later, for the start of school on September 1st, you reinstated the mask requirement for students in our schools. The majority have justified votes by clinging to the "for the safety of everyone" thread, often citing CDC and Rock County Health statistics that sway every other day. This has become a standard catch-all. Let me tell you, you've disregarded the wishes of the majority of parents in our community who actually have our kids in this district. I'm sick. I'm sick that you removed our choice at the expense of our children to help what? 0 cases of transmission throughout the summer is still 0, no matter how you want to sway it. 0 means 0. Pretty simple math. What you're failing to accept is the mental anguish that these kids are regularly experiencing. Kids rely on facial expression and cues to help them navigate through social environments. Expressions that play a vital role in how we convey information and offer guidance on feelings and response cues. Without any of these, when your face is covered by a mask, children cannot assimilate appropriate response. Nonverbal cues are lost, and kids are faced with poor communication and an inability to judge or react to emotions properly. Citing some statistics myself, using the basis from the CDC, I'll share that the Yale School of Medicine has seen an increase of distressed teens in cases of mental health by more than 31%. Kids ages 5 to 11 have seen an increase of 24%. That's concerning. Your mask motive for the safety of everyone is increasing depression, anxiety, weakening social interactions, and you're causing kids to suffer both socially and academically. At what point do we stop these unintended consequences for our kids and take responsibility for our own actions? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next, I have Tammy Goldstein. Yes, right here.
And where's my timer?
You should be able to see it up here, right?
No. Can you show me where? Because I'm talking fast.
It's right on that screen right there, that TV behind you.
Okay. Okay. No. All right. Any questions before I get started?
Would you put up your mask for us?
Okay, I will have trouble talking, and I have bad asthma, and I don't want to pass out talking.
Okay,
I promise I'll put it up the minute I'm done.
okay, thank you.
All right. Ready? The only appropriate COVID policies should be mask choice, no social distancing, and no mandated vaccines. If the school district mandates masks, the onus of responsibility to provide informed consent falls on the school district. Informed consent means the district must provide the duplicatable, peer-reviewed, published scientific studies showing the benefits and risks to wearing a mask or social distancing. An inability to provide the studies makes mask wearing and social distancing human experimentation and falls under the Nuremberg Code. The Nuremberg Code was established by the U.S. to address the legal, ethical, and financial concepts in respect to human experimentation. The district can be held financially accountable for physical and mental harm caused by these experiments, and parents need to keep track of their additional medical expenses. The Nuremberg Code says the voluntary consent of the human participant is absolutely essential. The principle goes on to require that informed consent without coercion, threat, fraud, duress, and allows for the option to opt out at any time. Parents and students in this district feel coerced. They feel threatened by a loss of education, and the parents are feeling the duress by having their parental considerations ignored. The Nuremberg Code also requires that human participation be of legal age to make that decision to participate, yet the district is forcing children to participate in mask wearing or they receive consequences for their actions. Students see the hypocrisy every day in social media, the school cafeteria, the practices of mask breaks, and earning airtime. Imagine we're teaching our children they have to earn the right to breathe fresh air. This policy is discriminatory because it singles out a select group of people, and you're forcing medical opinions on them under coercion. Children have a 99.99% recovery rate for COVID, so it was appalling to see the district allow human experiments of an untested vaccine on our children on school property. Especially appalling that the vaccine manufacturer is absolved from all product liability. Did you, have you, will you receive any financial incentive to mandate the mask policy or hold the vaccine experiments on school grounds? These are the questions the parents want answered. Where did the money come from? Federal, state, CDC, DHS, teachers union, vaccine manufacturers. How much money was received? Pfizer earned $210 billion in the first quarter of 2021. They spread that money around to get what they want. To date, according to VAERS, 15,000 have died. The vaccine was patented in 2008. It is not on the market. It hasn't been on the market up till now because of disease enhancement. During the animal trials, the ferrets that were vaccinated with the COVID shot all died when they were later exposed to the vaccine. There have been more deaths from the COVID shot than every other vaccine combined since 1990. And children had an 86% adverse reaction during the children COVID vaccine trials. Moving forward, the only appropriate COVID mandates is choice. And without it, you're going to leave parents with no other option than legal ramification. Your job ends at education. It's not within your job description or legal power to make any individual medical decision for a child. That right remains with the parents. I'm representing Wisconsin United for Freedom and Wisconsin for Vaccine Choice, and I'm representing all the members in Rock County here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Goldstein. We never got your address. Would you state your name and address, please, for the record?
Tammy Goldstein, 1013 North Osborne Avenue in Janesville.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, and our last person is Ty Ballarud. Hi, Mr. Ballarud. Would you please state your address, your name and address?
Yeah, 4608 Pendleton Court, Milton, Janesville. I'm Ty Ballarud. You had your minutes, closed minutes for June, and I took a copy. It talks about how you're in a court, June 22nd, and you have closed minutes. And I don't know what that means, but you should make them public since you have closed minutes and you're in a court. That's what it says up under A and F. If you read that, I can read it direct. Here's your major problem. You got all sorts of committees, people, staff that works similar to the state of Wisconsin. They have all sorts of people in the state of Wisconsin that work for them too, and their opinion means nothing because it's set up that way. There's no way to pass from one person to another except for like email and because they're not asking. Unless you have a single audit that you can pass, you can't possibly help health insurance money or anything else. Quite the opposite. By ordering masks on, you have taken choice, but you also have taken your own arithmetic and threw it out the window. You also have taken, you haven't proved any evidence, which overturned the Supreme Court on April 1st, 2021, the same year. But you say it's in court. The only court decision was the Supreme Court that says there is choice. It can't be mandated. So unless you have new evidence of any kind that says health-wise there's anything, you have nothing. CDC, which Carl says you should point out, they say anybody up under the age of 5 should not wear a mask. It's not healthy. And everything else, everybody already else knows. Anybody that wears a mask compared to choosing not to wear a mask, they can't do it. It's obvious. And you guys know it too. They're not healthy. They're not good for your nasal. They're not good for your visual, and they're hard to do. It's like a second job. A single audit, which is 193, Wisconsin State Statute 193.445, is easy. And what it does, it allows communication. With internet, we were supposed to have communication. Right now, what kind of what has it served? It's only served some mass effort from government that nobody understands. Nobody read A, C, and F on the June meetings. They don't know that you're litigating something that the public wasn't aware of. I don't know what that was. I don't know if you know what that was. I read the minutes in the meeting that passed the vote. And there were so many flip-flops, and then it took 2 hours. The citizens been thrown out. Their opinions have been thrown out. And, it's mass confusion. And I'm not saying you guys were really great at before, but right now the drug companies has pushed their agenda. The only people in the only agenda that got pushed wasn't the people's. It was the drug companies. I'm not talking about vaccine. Vaccine set was supposed to give us choice. What choice do we have? We have to all mask up and act like we didn't actually have to connect them up to help streamline the decision that the FDA had a problem with. So we don't understand. We're still waiting for the first discussion from the school board. I don't see that we ever had it. I see my time's up.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. All right. Okay, that ends citizen comment for tonight. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion for approval. Second.
Oh, okay. I got got it in stereo again. I have Commissioner Murray on the motion, and I have Commissioner Dommershausen on the second. I keep leaving you out. I am sorry. Okay, so.
Choke you out.
Okay, we're going to do a roll call vote. Okay, so Ms. Jensen,
Hayworth.
Yes. Excuse me, yes.
Herda.
Yes.
Millard.
Yes.
Murray. Yes. Paul.
Yes.
Ardrey.
Yes.
Dommershausen.
Yes.
Hanawal.
Yes.
Myers.
yes.
Vote passes 9-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, we have a presentation about summer school. Mr. Stengel.
Excuse me. Can I just bring it? It's over here.
Oh, yes?
Just one quick thing. I want to compliment the committee that did through all these policies and that, the work they've done.
Okay,
And that sometimes they don't get complimented for it because I look at the body of work and I've read some of the things.
yes.
That's an amazing.
It
So
is
thank
ama-
you.
They're actually going to give a report later on tonight too, so,
It's okay. I just wanted it now. Thank you.
all right, thank you very much. Mr. Stengel,
All right.
thank you.
Well, good evening, board members. My name is Paul Stengel, and I'm a program support teacher out of the Learning and Innovation Department. And one of my roles is the summer school director. So tonight what I'll be doing is reviewing the 2021 summer school program for you. So if you think back to spring, this is kind of ironic after all the speakers. We are coming off of quite an interesting school year when we had students virtual. We had some students at Arise, some students were in person every other day at the high schools. We had kind of a hybrid approach to it. And so that presented some challenges to us. We also had a lot of students in our middle schools and elementary schools who were attending Arise Virtual Academy, but we knew that they were going to be coming back in the fall to the regular brick and mortar school. So that also presented some challenges, but we also saw that as opportunities for us. And so that's kind of how I went about approaching our goals for the summer school program. Our first goal is a goal that we have every year, and that is to provide new learning opportunities for all of our students. So whether they were in school or Arise, we wanted to provide some enriching opportunities for our students. Our second goal was keeping our students academically, socially, and emotionally connected over the summer. We know that the students, because, for whatever reason, if they weren't consistent, they were kind of checking out in all three of those phases. And so we knew that we wanted to try to get those kids back into a routine and establish those social connections that they had with their classmates and the academic and just getting them back emotionally stable. And finally, we were having a lot of kids that were going to be returning to the brick and mortar schools, and families and the students were apprehensive and nervous about what that was going to look like. And so we took advantage of that and brought the families in and gave them an opportunity to see what it was going to be like, because a lot of these kids hadn't been back in school in over a year. And so we wanted to give them just that comfort level, so when school started up in the fall, that transition was, they were over that hump. So with that being said, we did serve over 3,000 students in summer school this summer. Our elementary program ran June 7th through July 3rd. Our high school ran June 7th through the 16th of July, and we had other programming such as band camps and orchestra camps that ran through August. So we had a wide variety of opportunities for our kids. So some of the courses that we offered for elementary included math and reading, STEM, art, and Phi-Ed, just to kind of get the kids back into a routine. If they had been at Arise or homeschooled, having them experience kind of what a regular school day might look like for them. We also provided kickoff to kindergarten and first grade Here I Come. Some of those kids had never even been in school before, so this provided that opportunity to meet teachers, see what it was like to be in a classroom with other students, and going from there. We also had enriching opportunities such as golf at Black Off Golf Course. We had our JSOL Nature Navigators, and we were able to offer swim lessons once again at 3 of our pools. For our secondary schools, for our middle school, we had STEM and JSOL survival science. This, again, in our middle schools, it was an opportunity for our 6th graders to meet their new peers and teachers and get a layout of what the school was going to be like. For our high school students, in addition to our regular credit recovery, which allowed those students, if they failed the class, to make up some of those credits to be able to graduate on time with their peers. We did also offer enriching opportunities, including AP Calc prep, Summer Research Institute. We had speed, strength, and athletic development. Band and orchestra camps went throughout the summer, and our ever popular summer musical this summer was actually Guys and Dolls, and it was very well attended. So I just want to say a big thank you, starting with our administration. It was, I sought their advice on many things regarding were we going to be able to pull off summer school, and what was that going to look like, and what mitigation efforts were we going to need to have in place. The school board, you had removed the mask mandate after the 2nd day. I know that it was a different time in the summer. We didn't have the Delta variant around at the time. And so we were in a different state at that time. But I think that helped without the masks, helped the parents feel more comfortable at that time. As speakers did say, we didn't have any COVID incidents, which was wonderful to see. Again, that was a different time, and so I just wanted to bring that up. I wanted to thank our head teachers, our teachers, our paraprofessionals for welcoming all of our families and making that a warm and inviting experience, and really letting those parents see what it was going to be like to have the kids back in school. I also wanted to thank our custodial staff, maintenance. We have the renovations going on this summer, and we needed to work around all of the renovations that were taking place. And finally, I want to thank our food service workers who provided meals to all of our kids, breakfast and lunch every day. So with that, summer school 2022, we are projecting to have a start date of June 6th. But again, that is just a projection at this point. So any questions?
Any questions? Commissioner Hannibal?
I just want to say on a personal note, it's on. Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to say on a personal note, thank you for the 1st grade here I come, because my granddaughter had missed kindergarten last year because of the pandemic and did virtual. And so for a kindergartner to miss that 1st year, we always think, okay, the kindergartners get to go to school for the first time. But I think that was great that you included the 1st graders this year.
Good. Yeah, we do offer that course every school or every summer, and I agree that it provided different goals or benefits this summer for those students who hadn't attended at all in kindergarten.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Commissioner Paul.
Thank you. We've spoken before. I'm very grateful for the work that you do with the summer school program. I don't know if the community knows, but it's very common where it's posted online on Facebook about when summer school enrollment opens, because some of those classes fill so quickly that people actually put it in their schedules of when to register for summer school. So it's very much appreciated in the community, the work that you're doing. I am interested from a school board perspective, are there things that you would like to be able to do with the summer school program that you haven't been able to do yet? Just wondering if those topics come up and what kinds of things that you would like to be able to try for summer school. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if there's a way that school board can support or know about some needs that you have, we always like to hear those things.
Well, I appreciate that. Off the top of my head, I guess I would just like to have the summer back to normal. We ran into issues we weren't sure with busing, so we had to remove some of our more popular classes, such as Saunters, where the kids would get on a bus and travel to different parts of the state. We also had different partnerships with the Rock County Historical Society. We had some different offerings with our Lego classes and robotics. We had our Global Ambassador Academies in the past that those students weren't able to come over. So I think at this point, I don't know as if I need anything more from the board except to wave your magic wand and have everything go back to normal. So, yeah. Right, yes.
Questions or comments? Yeah, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Well done.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, next on our list is Student Wellness Program, Ms. Paramoon.
Great. Good evening, board members. Tonight's presentation is going to center around student wellness practices in the district, specifically with a focus on mental health and trauma. All right. So we are going to first start by building your background knowledge and assessing your current knowledge on trauma. So with this statement, an experience becomes traumatic when what do you believe is the correct answer by showing a finger of 1, 2, 3, or 4? So the correct answer for an experience becomes traumatic is when it actually overwhelms our ability to cope with a situation. This information is going to build onto the next statement. A traumatic experience
Can we respond?
Sure.
Maybe 3.
2 or 4.
And the correct answer to this is a traumatic experience is actually not 1, 2, or 3. So if we go back to our first question, in which an experience becomes traumatic when an individual cannot cope with a situation and becomes overwhelmed, all individuals have different coping mechanisms. Therefore, not all experiences necessarily become traumatic. So as we go through our presentation tonight, the statement we're going to keep grounded with is an experience becomes traumatic when an individual cannot cope with a situation and they become overwhelmed. There are primarily 5 different types of trauma when we review trauma: acute, chronic, complex, historical, and racial or race-based. But this also goes back to our grounding statement of it's only considered traumatic if a person becomes so overwhelmed they cannot cope with the situation. Also, the duration of an individual's ability to cope must also be taken into factor when determining trauma. It's very normal for an individual to have some type of reaction to a traumatic event for some period of time, but it's the inability to cope with it for long durations of time or the inability to get over it and being overwhelmed as to when it becomes traumatic. So how does the district respond? By creating trauma-informed and trauma-sensitive schools. No one is an expert. All staff need to know warning signs and how to respond to those warning signs within the classroom, from the secretary to the custodian to the bus driver to the teacher in the classroom. All staff need to know how to support a student in trauma while maintaining those high expectations. The next 2 slides are going to take you through outcomes of professional development that we do with staff throughout the district regarding being able to understand warning signs, know them, and how to respond. Professional development may be building-based, it may be district-sponsored from staff who are trained in youth mental health first aid, 7 essential ingredients of trauma-informed schools, or various topics that Hope Counseling has partnered with us over the past couple of years to provide to staff. So if we look at this first example, when we work with our staff, we kind of give them a 3-layered approach. The first is with their trauma glasses off, and what do they see on the surface? So in this example, they may see that the student is just lazy, unmotivated. They're wasting their potential. They don't want to apply themselves. We teach them to dig a little bit deeper and to put themselves into the student's shoes, where the student is feeling that nobody cares about them, or I can't deal with adult expectations anymore. I can't trust anyone. Putting those things together then allows them to put their trauma glasses on to put strategies and supports into place for that student, showing respect to the student, that that student may be focusing on survival, that they may be very overwhelmed and constantly frozen and not know what kind of decisions to make. They can then come up with some type of action plan to keep them in the classroom, to try and motivate them to continue on with their academic journey. So they may track a student and engage them when they're more engaged, give them leadership roles to try to draw them in to a more positive setting within the school. The second example is another one in which we put the trauma glasses off, and the staff may see the student as being defiant of authority or disrespectful or needing severe consequences to be issued. But the student may be feeling frightened, may be scared of adults, feel they're his enemy. So when we put our trauma glasses on, we can then understand that the student needs a safe space to go and trusted adults, and that confrontation and conflict don't work with the student, and the student needs to be provided with strategies to de-escalate the student before the student escalates. But regardless of the outcome or the training that's provided, the outcome is always to teach staff how to use their trauma glasses while not lowering expectations. The district also partners with the Janesville Police Department through Handle with Care in order to make sure that students who have experienced traumatic events in their homes or out in the community are identified so that appropriate supports can be provided in the school setting if signs of trauma are notified. So if patrol encounter a potentially traumatic situation out in the field, they all have a P3 app specific to Handle with Care in which they enter the student's name and their school. That pushes an email to designated staff within every single district building and then to specified district staff. We then communicate with staff in that building that may interact with that student to let them know that they've been a witness or been involved with a traumatic event. So we can provide them with strategies and supports to give to that student if the student is showing signs of trauma. Through our mental health grant, we continue to expand our satellite offices throughout locations in the district, both with Mercy and Hope. We have both Mercy and Hope satellite offices at Craig, Parker, and Jackson, and then Hope satellite offices at Rock River Charter, Franklin, Lincoln, Madison, and Wilson. In addition, we do allow other outside providers to come into the school setting, and we also allow teletherapy within the school setting as long as they follow our protocols outlined in our district outside agency provider waiver. And finally, the district continues to provide our internal school supports through our school social workers, our counselors, our school psychologists, and our school nurses. It's very important to understand that these providers are not allowed to diagnose students or make treatment plans for students like outside clinical providers can. In addition to the job descriptions that are listed there, these providers can provide outside agency referrals for assistance, and they can help to remove any barriers that students and families may be facing in order for them to receive education in the school setting. At this time, I'd open up the floor to any questions that you may have.
Commissioner Hanwell and then Commissioner Murray.
Can you explain the difference between the Mercy and the Hope satellites?
There is no difference. It has to do with the type of insurance students have is really where students can be served. So they are able to provide the same type of services, but it's insurance dependent.
If I was a student, for example, at Parker, what would I expect to see at a Hope or Mercy satellite office? There's an individual, there's a specific office space, or what?
So each of the satellite offices has a specific secured space, and actually they have to be licensed to be in the school setting, and then there's a fee that goes behind that. So for example, if Mercy would like to set up, or Hope for that matter, an office in a new building, they have to come and inspect the area and ensure that it's confidential, it can be locked. No other people can really access that space. The school staff would make a referral to one of those agencies, and then they connect to see what works best for the family. So there are some families that still choose to have their student actually go to a facility to receive services. There's others that it works best for them to have the student receive the services in the school setting.
Other questions? Oh, yes, Ms. Herda?
So I liked your slide on the trauma glasses on, trauma glasses off. So when a student has a traumatic experience in his or her life, and a teacher is trained on a trauma-informed school and care and hopefully having those trauma glasses on, and a teacher sees a student experiencing difficulty, lazy, thinking, taking the glasses off, he's lazy, not wasting time. Do they provide additional support in that particular instance, and hopefully having those trauma glasses on to provide, your policy is different, if a late assignment is there, do they provide support with extensions and providing some leeway to provide additional support for that student so that they can feel successful, as opposed to, oh, you missed two grace periods, and so, you provide more support to that student who's experiencing that trauma?
Right, so that would be a goal, and then always, if it's a continued observation, knowing your resources within your building to go to see if they can provide another layer of support, like your social worker, psychologist, counselor, your school administrative team. All of the buildings have network teams or care teams in which a student like that, they may meet on to just bring everybody around the table to discuss what's going on. Is there anything that hasn't been tried with a student, to put a plan together for a student to ensure their success, and then to be in communication with the parents too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, following up on what Commissioner Murray asked, if a student, let's say, I think you said Parker, it doesn't matter. Let's say a student is experiencing some trauma within the home. Does that student need parental consent? Okay, so then we still have, unfortunately, a gap where if a student's experiencing problems in the home and mom and dad are like, you're not talking about our issues, they can't be served by this program.
Correct.
All right.
Oh, yes, Commissioner Hayward.
I'm just curious, what resources are there for the charter schools to access? Do they have social workers and counselors?
Yes, they all have
On-site?
access to counselors. and
Access or
social workers.
on-site?
So, Rock River Charter has a full-time social worker, and then they have a counselor that's shared between the Youth Services Center and Rock River, because that's often a transition pathway once they are released from the secured facility to get their high school diploma. At Tagos, they, now that they're in Parker, they have access to a counselor, a psychologist, a school nurse, a social worker on site, which they did have access to someone, but it traveled between Rock University and Tagos, so now they have on-site access. And Rock University has staff assigned to them also.
And then Arise is in Franklin anyway,
Arise
right?
actually does have a full-time assigned counselor, and they're in a unique situation because their full-time counselor also has a social work license as well. So she serves in both roles.
Thanks for bringing this up. It's been a couple of years, I feel like, since we've heard about this. I know we wanted some hope expansion, and this is really good. I think it definitely paints a picture of that student success goal and knowing every student by name, strength, and need. And I thank you for doing this. This is a lot of work.
And I will say too, there is the ability, even if they aren't a Wilson student or a Madison student, that they could go to another school building if it was closer for transportation. and get services at that building. So even though their satellite office is located in a building, you know, if we were ever able to get something at Marshall, for example, and a family at Monroe wanted to sign their student up and the student was safe enough and could appropriately walk themselves across the parking lot, the student wouldn't be denied services at Marshall just because they're a Monroe student.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. So the mental health services at the schools that students may utilize, and you know, unfortunately, some of our students with trauma issues may act out in, you know, either in disciplinary, you know, in a disciplinary or an issue that requires discipline, or may activate that, or maybe are just being what appears to be, you know, intentional non-learners, and you know, even though it's caused by this experience. And I'm just wondering, is there enough communicate, or is there really good communication between these health services and, like, say, discipline teams or RTI teams, you know, about things that are going on? Are they allowed to communicate? Are
you talking about with like an outside provider and the
Yeah.
schools?
So, like, if an RTI team is meeting about a student that seems to be an intentional non-learner, you know, do they get this kind of information about the student? Yeah, you know, that kind of thing. And
So we can only talk to outside providers if the parent signs a release of information, and then on that release of information, it has to specify who can have access to specific information. School teams can share information. Obviously, we expect it to be confidential for their educational planning purposes with one another in order to make sure the students program for appropriately.
okay, thank you. I have a friend that, very good friend that works with children who are in very difficult situations, you know, and she raves about the mental health services here in our district, and how helpful it is to the students that she deals with. So I really appreciate that very much, and thank you so much for all of your information. So I'm assuming there are no other questions or comments. Thank you very, very much. Okay. All right, early literacy. Superintendent Bufal.
Thank you, President Myers. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to address you this evening about something related to our promises and student learning outcomes. Right? That's you know, really kind of the foundational work that we all do, and try to stay focused on day in and day out. And as you know, the board, in its infinite wisdom, put a strategic plan in place 4 years ago now. And one of those outcomes that we desired was to really improve the percentage of kids who can read proficiently at third grade. Because we know that when kids can read proficiently at third grade, that it creates a positive trajectory for them to graduate from high school on time and to have all kinds of other really very positive outcomes. And so the staff, you know, embraced that promise, and you know, got to work, rolled their sleeves up and got to work, and took a variety of pathways towards working towards that outcome, one of which was the early literacy project that got underway. You know, I've had the privilege to spend time reading to 4K classrooms, like lots of them, and I go read books, and it's exciting and it's fun, and there's also a part of me that walks out really sad, because you can see, you know, I spent my whole career secondary, right, middle and high school, and so I'm not like an expert with the youngest learners, but you can see the developmental differences that exist between kids in 4-year-old kindergarten, and how some of them come to school ready to learn, how some of them have rich vocabularies already, and others not so much. And you can tell right away kind of who's been read to and who's had, you know, kind of that seat time, if you will, with mom, dad, older brothers, sisters, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncle, you know, whoever it is, right, that It sits down with those little ones, reads to them, and talks with them and plays with them. And so as a result of that, we decided to bring a group of people together from around the community and implement what we called phase one of the early literacy program. And that's been up and running now for years. Okay, thank you. Phase one, of course, you're all familiar with this, right, is really has two big components to it. One is Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. That's done in partnership with the United Way. And that program gets books into the hands, age developmentally appropriate books into the hands of kids, right? And so once they get signed up for this program, I think we currently have about 1,400 kids in the community signed up. Starting at birth or whenever they sign up, they get a book mailed to their home every single month until they turn 5 years old. And so if they're signed up from birth all the way to age 5, that's 12 times 5, 60 books. Because one of the problems we know in some homes is just access to appropriate print materials. And so we're grateful for that partnership, and we're grateful for the private funding that goes on as part of that work. We've tended to have a waiting list, frankly, based on the amount of funding that exists. And so a couple of different times we've used some of the fundraised money, the donations that we've had, almost $300,000 worth of at this point, to get rid of that waiting list. As a matter of fact, it just had a $10,000 check mailed to us just 2 weeks ago by somebody who said, "Wow, this is amazing work. Get kids reading, get them off the waiting list," right? So that money's every dollar of it being put to work to get books in the hands of kids. The other piece of that we also recognize is elevating the knowledge base of the community and specifically of parents of young children, right? And so we entered into a partnership with our 2 hospital providers to start doing parent education about brain development and early literacy from birth on, right? And to start introducing parents to the importance of reading, talking, and playing every day with your child and the positive outcome that creates for them in terms of being school ready when they come to 4K and K. And so we're excited that those things are in place, but we also recognize that there's a lot more that needs to get done. And so we're here tonight to ask you to approve phase 2 programming for the early literacy program. And this is a list of all the things that, at least to start with, our phase 2. Again, it will be done in partnership with the community, but we really need to put some more resources behind, phase 2. If we really want to have a broader impact across the community with more kids and in a more systematic way, one of the things we need to do is we need to have somebody who doesn't just have this as like an add-on to their already full-time job that they had before. And Angela Lynch and Allison DeGraff have done, frankly, yeoman's work with phase 1. But, they already had full-time jobs before, we onboarded this initiative, right? And while they will continue to stay involved, we really need somebody who can be on point and to really elevate, not only supporting the work that's going on in phase 1, but then to launch these other initiatives and more that I'm sure over time will get developed. One of the programs that we'd like to get onboarded is a program called the Basics Insights. It's a Harvard-based, program that is all about parent education, but not our parent education right now is a good starting point, but we just have access to those parents that one time, right? And we know that in order for that education to be effective for those parents, it needs to be ongoing, it needs to be regular, not episodic, right? And so that's exactly what this program does. It uses text messages, and every week parents are getting 2 text messages, and they're getting coached, they're getting suggestions on things that they can be doing with their little ones that will help them, to be ready to go to school. Sibling book bags is another evidence-based program that's older siblings reading to their younger siblings and systematizing that, not leaving it to chance, right? Taking advantage of the fact that we have lots of families with multiple children in them, in fact, most of them, right? And leveraging older kids reading to their younger brothers and sisters, and doing that in a systematic way and tracking it. And oh, by the way, not only do the little ones benefit from that, but guess what? Older brothers and sisters, we know from research, end up getting a positive outcome, a boost in their own reading scores as a result of that. Other things here, and I won't go into all of them in great detail, but the other big piece of this is just kind of the idea that we really want to work with community partners in a broader way and in a little different way than we have so far, to really put together a marketing and promotion program, to be educating the community about the importance of literacy. And we're starting to see little bits of that, right? You know, this is stuff like you go to the park and what's painted on the concrete, right? And does it promote literacy? And what's on a billboard? And what's on the side of a bus? And what can we do to swarm our community and educate our community about the importance of this issue? Because at the end of the day, if kids come to school ready to learn, if they come to school with broad, rich vocabularies when they're 4 and 5 years old, they're well on their way to being able to be grade level readers in 3rd grade. And they're well on their way to meeting the algebra target as 9th graders. And they're well on their way to graduating on time and having taken one of those AP or dual enrollment classes. All those other goals that we have honestly hinge on our ability to get this piece right. And so we're proud of the work that has transpired to date. We're excited about where this can go with phase 2. And we're also super excited about the work that's going on inside the district in terms of what do we do once they're here with us, right? And how do we make sure that we've really got an evidence-based, standards-driven curriculum in place and staff that really are implementing it with vitality because they have the right training and support. And Allison and her team, our elementary principals and our teaching staff are doing really heavy lifting right now to really get all of that stuff right. And that'll be another discussion for another night. Questions about early literacy?
Questions? Commissioner Hannawalt.
No question, but again, as we were talking earlier, the value of having the one-on-ones with you, you shared some of this with that. I also want to thank you for being the first superintendent that we had that has addressed the early literacy program in this community. So as we were talking about some other things earlier, I think that's another kudos to you. So thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. I was trying to make sure everybody that before me. So you mentioned the early literacy coordinator position. How are we thinking this will be, not that I would ever be against it, I just want to know how we think it might be paid. Is it going to be paid from funds that we raise, grants?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Thank you. So the proposal that you have in front of you tonight would expand the use of Fund 80, which is a community services fund. We're currently leveraging Fund 80 to pay for the phase 1 programming that's going on. Fund 80 is a fund that rests outside of the normal district revenue limits. And the reason we can use Fund 80 for this programming is because we're not just serving kids in the School District of Janesville, we're serving all kids in the community. And we're doing that right now with phase 1. We don't, when we go to, when a birth happens at the hospital, right? Nobody's asking, are you going to be homeschooled, or are you going to one of the parochials, or are you going to, no, we do parent education for all parents, right? And any kid can sign up for Imagination Library. And all of these other programs and services will be made available to all children and all families in the community, because there's so much movement back and forth. And I don't really, I just want all kids to be able to hit these reading targets, right? And so whether they're homeschooled or whether they're in one of the great parochial schools that exist in our community, or whether they're one of ours, or whether they go back and forth between those things, which often happens, we want to make sure all kids in this community can read. That creates a really positive narrative for our next generation of kids in Janesville.
Thank you. And the money for Fund 80 comes from where?
Yeah, it's levied, it's paid by the local taxpayers.
Okay.
And so we're suggesting that instead of levying the $50,000 that we have been, that we're going to levy $177 on average over the next 3 years.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That's great. Yeah, Commissioner Hannawalt?
So, Kathy, do you need a motion for to approve this early literacy coordinator tonight.
This is an action item, so I do need a motion for.
I will move that.
Okay, and second from Commissioner Dommershausen. Okay, any further discussion? Thank you very much for the motion. Any further discussion or observations? Yes, Commissioner Dommershausen?
I have one question. Fund 80 will accept contributions, won't they, towards it?
So we will still continue to, yes, exact. The short answer is yes. We will
Thank you.
continue to leverage community resources to supplement this program.
Understood. Thank you.
You're
Glad to hear that.
Any others? No? No? Okay, well, I think we should vote. We need to do a roll call.
Yes.
Oh, and I hope Commissioner Ardrey doesn't think we're ignoring him, so I hope he just jumps right in.
Yeah, I would yell up if needed.
Okay, I figured, so, okay, all right, Ms. Jensen, we are ready.
I want to clarify the motion
Yes.
on the table right now. Commissioner Hanawal, are you making a motion to approve the early literacy program phase 2? The entire phase?
Yes, and funded by, to be funded by Fund 80.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll start roll call vote. Herda,
Yes.
Millard,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ardrey,
Yes.
Dommershausen,
Yes.
Hanawal,
Yes.
Hayworth,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes,
Vote passes 9-0.
thank you all very, very much. Thank you very much, Superintendent Poofall. Okay, PPC committee report, sorry, Commissioner Hayworth.
Oh, thank you. We had a really good meeting. You have a lot of notes in the agenda tonight that I encourage you to take a look at. First, we have a staffing update, and there's a small chart in there, a one-page chart in there that shows how we're doing so far. Because right before that meeting, we had seen some articles and heard about staffing shortages. We are struggling to hire, so the staff is getting creative. At the time of PPC, we had 119 active subs, which is about average, because I'd asked about how we're doing in sub fill rates. We had 16 retirements, which is also about normal. 15 teacher openings with many more para and food service and custodial postings are also listed in there, and I'm sure Scott's team has made progress on that. It's about a 50-50 split between middle school and high school versus elementary, about 65 openings each at the time of the meeting. 26 openings are dedicated to the ESSER plan, so that is, we have more openings than normal just because of the ESSER funding for that. So thanks to the staff for all the work that you're doing, Scott and team, that goes into posting and interviewing and hiring and onboarding. It's not easy. We also talked about a new food service position, a new chef position. With Jim Deegan's upcoming end of 2021 retirement, part of his succession plan and to support the growing food service program we have, the team has proposed a chef position that would be fully funded by the program, no extra budget expenses. The role would be a resource for training and help drive consistency throughout the program. In addition, it would be a cost savings to use this role for any in-house catering needs potentially. And there is a full job description in the board packet for your review. So we wish Jim the best in his transition to spoiling the grandkids at the end of the calendar year. And then professional development, Mrs. DeGraff, or Dr. DeGraff, I should say, excuse me. She covered a lot of the work that the administration staff do to get ready for the new school year, and it's astonishing work. Allison and a broad team of directors and administration built a detailed calendar of promise-driven PD for all staff for the 2 weeks prior to school starting. So in your board packet, it's actually the document called August Professional Development Calendar and Schedule. It is, the detail is 9 pages of 11 days of PD that she breaks out, K-5 and 6-8, and high school. Some's virtual, some's in person. You guys, when you look at that, it's mind-boggling how organized that team is and all the work that they do. So they allow also that plan builds in some work days so the teachers can do some prep. We're welcoming 100 new teachers to our district this year at the time of the PPC meeting. So welcome to all those teachers. And thanks to everyone from the directors, principals, and staff for getting this work done. We also had Neola, as you saw in consent agenda. We reviewed several Neola policies related to information and document security, job description formatting, and other safety issues, and these passed without question. Future PPC meetings will continue to have Neola and also presentations on upcoming curriculum adoptions. And if you ever have any topics that you would like us to cover or explore more, let me know. We're happy to do that. Any questions? Kevin?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, I wanted to thank Superintendent Pufall for taking time to talk to me about this position. And Jesus spent at least an hour with Dan McCrae talking about food service budget in its entirety, right? And then this position as well. So thank you very much for that. I wanted to make sure I voiced my opinion and my thoughts about the chef position. Because other than this opportunity, I don't think there is one. I shared earlier with board members that I would have liked to have seen, maybe moving forward, any time when administration is proposing a new position, any new position, not just replacement of existing, and that it comes before the board. In all cases, in this one, I was told that it wasn't necessary, but just because we don't have to doesn't mean we shouldn't come to the board. And the reason I bring that up, one is I was having lunch with a group of my buddies, and one guy says, "Hey, Murray, I heard you guys are hiring a chef for $70,000. What are you talking about? That can't be true. I would have heard about that. Well, then I had to follow up, and geez, sure enough, the proposal is to hire a $70,000 chef. That includes benefits. So again, just on that particular point, I was told that this position, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just going to generalize, it's not a supervisory position, so therefore it doesn't need board approval. But I'm saying, I think, in my opinion, it's necessary for the board to at least to have approval on any new position to affects our budget, whether it's a food service budget or any other fund that we have. So I hope other board members will feel the same moving forward on that. I read this job description, and well, first I need to be very transparent, and you may know, may or not know, but my wife is a lunch lady at Craig High School. So I get her point of view, which is her point of view, right? But I know that staff, all the staff in food service work very hard at what they do. And in fact, it hasn't happened in a couple of years because the health department used to come through and inspect. And it was multiple years in a row, they were getting 100% A's across the board on what they do and their training and how cleanly and the whole overall package. So this job description, I'm hoping these things are being done already. Here's, for example, this position will be a knife skills trainer. So I'm assuming that the staff has already been trained on how to handle knives. So, but yet we got to have somebody that's going to train them on how to use a knife. There's a lot of training in here, best kitchen practices, dietary needs for student allergies. And again, I'm sure these things are already happening. If they aren't, that's a whole nother issue to address. I would not have supported this new position. I think it's uncalled for, and I think it's a misappropriation of taxpayer dollars. It's not a needed thing. So I kind of boiled it down a little bit better than our conversation today. But it just goes on and on. It just makes me wonder why. Our food service run by Jim Deegan is fabulous. We have a healthy fund balance within that fund that we use to renovate, buy, or purchase anything directly related to the kitchen and food service. We're really healthy that way. So, I just got to add this one more. It says one of the skills that this person has to have, math skills, ability to add and subtract two-digit numbers and to multiply and divide by tens and 100s. So it's just, to me, it's just kind of ridiculous, this whole package. So thanks for letting me air my opinion and thoughts on how this all came down. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, yes, Commissioner Domershausen.
Yeah, I want to thank Commissioner Murray for bringing it up because he had questions about it and that. But maybe we need to refresh people, the food fund, how it's used. And Dan, maybe he'd be the right one, or Steve or someone, that this money is not local taxpayer money going out. This is a federal fund, if I'm correct in that. But a little clarity for the taxpayer might be nice to hear.
I can,
sure.
Let me answer that. I mean, it'd be great, I spent an hour with Dan, and it'd be great if you have questions about the food service budget to talk to him about that. It was enlightening. But you're right, Carl. It's federal dollars managed by the state DPI. But, right, but what pocket is it coming out of? It's still taxpayer dollars, right?
Absolutely.
It's everything we do in the School District of Janesville is through tax dollars. Whether it comes out of this pocket or that pocket or a little bit of your back pocket, it's all tax dollars.
But it's good to have clarity.
Yep.
Anything else on this? I just wanted to also echo what Commissioner Domershausen said earlier about all the policies you guys have been weeding through. And honestly, the work is long overdue. And that's probably why there's so much of it. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate that. So thank you so much. Okay. All right. So let me go back to my agenda here. Summary of board requests. I do have a handful. And I need to have a little bit of time to digest, and I will get back to you about those. And see what we can do about getting discussion going on it. And I want to make sure I've got them all. So I think I got them from Commissioner Hayworth and Commissioner Murray mostly. And so just let me double check, make sure I've got them all, because I feel like they've been kind of coming at me here. Okay. 4? Okay, I'll check. All right, and then future meetings, meeting dates and items. What have we got coming up here? Ms. Jensen?
The next Board of Education meeting will be on Tuesday, October 12th at 6 p.m. here at the Educational Services Center. And then we will have our public hearing on the proposed 21-22 district budget, along with our Board of Education meeting on Tuesday, October 26th at 6 p.m. at the Educational Services Center.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, it looks like we have come to the end of our agenda. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Enjoy the game.